What is up, everyone? Welcome back to Unite Tactics. We've got a fun video today. We've got our first update since, well, our first major update since the release of Pokemon Unite, with a lot of big balance changes and whatnot. So we're going to go over each Pokemon specific updates, as well as talk about what this might do for the overall metagame of the game. So first of all, I just kind of want to go over the theme of the update coming out on the 4th, and it seems to be that it's just, well, basically, if your main Pokemon isn't Gengar, Cinderace, or Eldegoss, then you're going to be seeing a buff. And if your main is one of those Pokemon, you are going to be seeing a debuff. For obvious reasons, it feels like, because those three Pokemon are basically on every single team in the high meta. Obviously, there are some other really strong Pokemon, such as Snorlax and in my opinion, Machamp, which we'll be seeing a little bit of changes as well. Almost every Pokemon got a change, but for the most part, we're going to be seeing move changes, so that, like, for example, with Gengar, we're going to be seeing, obviously there's only one specific move set that people typically go for, which is Sludge Bomb Hex. We're going to be seeing some debuffs to those stronger movesets and buffs to the less preferred movesets, I suppose, in order to kind of make the option more of a 50-50 and make everyone have usability on both of their movesets, rather than just having one superior moveset that you always go for, which I really like. It is going to kind of give the game more diversity, I feel like, and just more variety in the game. It's always a good thing. Anyway, let's get right into it. We're going to start with the elephant in the room, Gengar, because Gengar has, well, as you know, Hex has been kind of a big problem / good way to climb in Pokemon Unite thus far. I know many people have been able to just get right to Masters specifically with Gengar. Like, if you know how to use his Shadow Ball Hex well, then, well, it's just like an easy one-way ticket to Masters, I feel like. So obviously that's going to be a big thing that they've nerfed. However, it's kind of funny because so let's start at the beginning of Gengar. So first of all, he's got some basic attack bug fixes is what they say. We're going to see a couple of these. I'm not really sure what the bugs are with these basic attacks, but apparently a couple of the different Pokemon in the game had bugs involved with their basic attacks. So we're seeing a basic attack bug fix on Gengar. We're also going to see a damage increase on Shadow Ball, which is... obviously, people aren't running Shadow Ball because in order to get the Hex combo, you have to be running Sludge Bomb Hex. So I think in order to kind of incentivize people to not go with Sludge Bomb Hex, they're upping the damage on Shadow Ball, which, as I mentioned before, we're going to see with a lot of these Pokemon today. So yeah, kind of incentivizing people to not go with the meta pick, which I really, really appreciate and I really like. So interesting change here. They are upping the damage on Shadow Ball, and then it looks like, so this is my favorite update in the whole patch. Hex move downgrade and Dream Eater move upgrade. It doesn't say what the changes are. So Dream Eater and Hex are the two moves that Gengar can pick between for the second move in his kit, and it's just so funny that, like, most of our updates today are going to say like damage increase or cooldown reduction or something like that, but Gengar's Hex move downgrade and Dream Eater move upgrade, which it makes me feel like they don't even know what to do with it. It's like they haven't decided yet, but they want people to know that, like, hey, it's getting a downgrade of some sort. So Sludge Bomb isn't changing, but Hex will get some sort of a downgrade, which I guess we'll see when the update comes out. And Dream Eater will get some sort of an upgrade to, once again, make it, I guess, make the choice more of a 50-50 between attacks, which, once again, I'm all for. I really like not having characters get stale and only be stuck to one moveset, so yeah. So with Gengar out of the way, he was kind of the, you know, obviously the big elephant in the room for the first patch of the game. From there, we're just going to go in order. We do have Cinderace coming up as well later on, and Cinderace has also been just like a hard carry, but from Gengar, we're just going to go down the list as they were on the website, starting with Charizard. So Charizard is one of the few characters that I haven't played too much, and I haven't really seen, he hasn't seemed to be like too impactful over the game. Obviously, there's a lot of Charizard mains that are really good with him, but I'm most definitely not one of them. But it looks like he got some pretty good buffs. So first of all, Flamethrower, got a cooldown reduce, and effect on opposing Pokemon strengthened, which, once again, I kind of hope that they fix this in the future. It seems like their patch notes are, I don't, it feels like they don't even know what the patch is gonna be with how they're wording this. Like, the effect is strengthened. Neat. We can also see that this mysterious effect strengthened buff has been added to Fire Punch and Fire Blast as well as Fire Blast also getting a cooldown reduction. So all around good buffs for Charizard, allegedly. We'll see what the effect strengthened means when the patch goes live, but it, you know, could be good, I guess. Moving down on the list to, obviously, my personal favorite is going to be Talonflame. So Talonflame, I'm a little disappointed because this actually doesn't affect my moveset, because obviously, like I said before, most Pokemon have one specific strong moveset, which for Talonflame, the ideal moveset is typically Flame Charge and Brave Bird, and obviously, as you can see here, neither of those two moves got any changes at all, but we do see some buffs to, first of all, his starting moves. Acrobatics got a little bit of a buff to opposing Pokemon, which will make his early game ganks really good. Obviously, Talonflame is a jungle character. Ganking early is, with Acrobatics, it really doesn't do a whole lot of damage, so I'm curious to see how much the buff actually is on this, because I think that'll make early game ganks really fun with Talonflame, and maybe a little more comparable to someone like Zeraora or Absol, so yeah, good buff. The next buff we will see is on Aerial Ace, which is very, very much not used right now, so we actually get two buffs to Aerial Ace. We get Aerial Ace's normal attack gets a buff, and Aerial Ace Plus also gets a buff, so both get damage increases. So I guess before you upgrade Aerial Ace, it gets a damage increase, and after you upgrade it, it also scales a bit better. So I feel like Aerial Ace is going to need a bit more than that to make me want to use it, just because Flame Charge has the mobility as well. But hey, maybe we'll try out some Aerial Ace. We also seeing a buff to Fly, which I'm actually really happy about, because Brave Bird is so strong, but Fly is also very fun for both engaging and disengaging, and just getting around the map really fast. Although the little bit of damage trade-off with Fly obviously makes Brave Bird way, way better, but Fly is going to be potentially hitting for the same numbers as Brave Bird now. So maybe people will start using Fly instead of Brave Bird. That could be interesting. So yeah, that's Talonflame. Let's move on to Venusaur. Venusaur is another one that I'm really happy about. So Venusaur is in kind of a weird spot right now where, like, I feel like he was doing really well until Gardevoir came out, and now people just don't play Venusaur and play Gardevoir instead. He's got great range, however his engage is obviously non-existent, and his disengage is also non-existent, with the exception of just, well, eject button, which obviously every Pokemon has. So I'm really excited to see these updates with Venusaur. The moves I see most used for Venusaur are Giga Drain and Solar Beam. So with the theme of today, we're going to see a buff to the other moves. So we're going to see Sludge Bomb with the damage increase, and the effect on opposing Pokemon also strengthened. I'm assuming this means the poison that it gives them. So Sludge Bomb also decreases the movement speed and special defense of the opposing Pokemon for a short amount of time, so maybe we'll also see an effect increase on those, which could make for some really good plays with Venusaur, because if you could Sludge Bomb them and then Solar Beam them, like, so Sludge Bomb takes down their special defense and then Solar Beam them, and you just get like a huge wombo combo. I could see that being really, really good, and especially with Solar Beam's cooldown reduction that we're also seeing in this patch, which is great. Solar Beam's so fun to use, and the more you can use it, the better it is. Right now the cooldown is 11 seconds, so maybe if they brought that to, I don't know, I think anything less than that is going to be really fun, just be able to use it a lot. Petal Dance also, once again, with the mysterious move upgrade, which it's so hard to like talk about whether or not this is going to make it better or worse than Solar Beam, because I still see people use Petal Dance sometimes. However, I feel like Solar Beam's better, but I think it comes down to personal preference. Solar Beam seems like the better choice on Venusaur because, contrary to his bulky image, he really doesn't have a whole lot of bulk. So I feel like Solar Beam is just typically the safer option. With Solar Beam and Petal Dance having the same cooldown and Solar Beam getting a cooldown reduction, I feel like people are going to still typically lean towards Solar Beam over Petal Dance, but I guess we'll see what the move upgrade does. His Unite move, damage dealt to opposing Pokemon increased, I think is really good with his ult, so I've used Venusaur quite a bit, and it does feel like his ult has way too many downsides, because it takes a bit to charge. There's a big red circle that appears where you're going to fire it, so your opponents have a lot of time to kind of react to it and get out of the way. It does do a bigger radius of splash damage after the main impact, but the damage fall off between the main impact and the smaller splash damage afterwards does fall off quite a bit, so typically you're not getting a lot of damage off of your main explosion with the ult. but it looks like we are seeing a damage increase. So maybe if you can combo with some teammates and have some other CC, or maybe a good way to secure Zapdos even, if you can just launch in a Unite move from a safe distance and have it do enough damage to finish off a Zapdos pretty consistently, then that could make Venusaur see a lot of use, honestly. So that's a really good update. Next on the list we have Absol, who, like I said before, is going to be on the list of basic attack bug fixes that we're going to be seeing. Once again, doesn't really say anything about what the bugs are, but yeah, that's fixed. Typically with Absol, we see people run Pursuit, so once again, in line with today's updates, we're going to see an update to the opposite, Night Slash, which is going to increase damage to the opposing Pokemon. So Night Slash is his kind of two-pronged attack where it dashes once in the hook, and then once you use it once, you can dash again. So in the past, we've always seen people use Pursuit, I think because the dash range is a little bit farther, and also the damage buff when you hit people in the back after using Pursuit does a lot of damage, and it's actually pretty easy to use because you just dash through people, and when you dash through them, obviously you're behind them, and then you can just kind of quickly mash A and auto attack them from behind and get that extra damage with Pursuit, so it's really easy to get off, and it's also good for dashing. It's kind of like another Flash, you get a long dash, so Pursuit's really good. Night Slash, its downfall is you can only use the second dash if the first dash hits, and it really doesn't do like that much more damage than Pursuit, so we are seeing a damage increase to Night Slash. Maybe that will bring it up to where people are preferring Night Slash over Pursuit, but I guess we'll see how that goes. I still feel like Pursuit seems like the better option to me, but we'll see. Sucker Punch is also getting an update. So people right now are using Psycho Cut with Absol, so once again, we're seeing an update to the opposite, Sucker Punch. Sucker Punch as well, we're seeing just a damage increase, which I'm actually really excited about. So Sucker Punch has kind of a confusing effect, so let me kind of like summarize it real quick. It says, after a short time, the user charges to attack the opposing Pokemon. However, if the user receives damage or gets attacked before it charges, the attack immediately shoves the opposing Pokemon, which doesn't tell us if it cancels the opponent's damage. If it, like, I don't know what this move does, but I know what Psycho Cut does, and Psycho Cut is what gets Absol most of its damage. So maybe if Sucker Punch, like, if you get that proc off where you get kind of like the counter attack on them, but once again, it's one of those things where like it's not typically going to be the better one to go for over Psycho Cut, just because Psycho Cut is something that you get to control, and Sucker Punch is something that depends on your opponent attacking you in order to get the big damage off. So I think we'll still see Psycho Cut being used, but who knows, maybe these damage buffs are going to be really big and will actually make people use Sucker Punch instead. It's nice to have the damage buff just so that we have that extra option, like I said before. But let's move on to Wigglytuff. So Wigglytuff is something I haven't seen people use a whole lot, which is probably the reason for this update, but it is the only Pokemon that we're going to see today with a actual stat increase, which is kind of cool. So following stats have been increased: defense, special defense, and HP. So Wigglytuff's going to see a pretty big bulk increase, which is cool. Right now it's classified as a support Pokemon, so we're going to see it go into a little bit more of a support / tank role, which is, well, what I imagine Wigglytuff to be anyway, so like that's cool. Its fitness role a little bit better. We're also going to see a damage increase and an effect strengthen on Double Slap, which seems really cool because Double Slap is one of the few moves on this update that I actually see people choose pretty frequently on the rare occasion that I do have a Wigglytuff on my team. So kind of interesting to see them buff one of the moves that's actually being played. In addition to that, we're also seeing a strengthen on Sing, which I'm assuming will just make people fall asleep faster, maybe a little more similar to what we see on Snorlax's Yawn, which once again is really cool. I really like Wigglytuff, and all in all, I hope that this makes Wigglytuff maybe fit more of a role that Snorlax fills, and maybe even see as much use as Snorlax in the future, so that'd be really cool. We're also seeing Dazzling Gleam bug fixes, which it once again doesn't say what they are, but they're there. So let's move on to Eldegoss. As I mentioned before, Eldegoss is one of the few Pokemons receiving a debuff. However, it is going to be getting a buff on one of its other moves, Cotton Spore. So first let's go into the debuffs. So the Unite move is, in my opinion, Eldegoss's ultimate is so overpowered because you get to not only be invulnerable while using the whole thing, but you also get to make your whole team essentially invulnerable with the amount of shield you give them, HP restore, and you also get to deal damage to the opponents at the same time. It's insanely strong. So we are seeing that get a little bit of a debuff, which is good. Cotton Guard, similar to the old, is well, the other move that gives its allies HP and a bit of an overshield, and it's also going to get a cooldown lengthen and HP restoration decrease. So it's more going to be just an overshield, and you're going to have to choose a little more wisely when to use it with a little bit of extra cooldown length. However, Cotton Sport is going to be getting the opposite. So Cotton Sport is getting a cooldown reduction and is getting a little bit of an extra effect increase, which Cotton Sport is kind of interesting, and I actually haven't used it yet on Eldegoss, but I could see this getting quite a bit of extra use now that Cotton Guard is getting debuffed and Cotton Sport is getting a little bit of a buff. So Cotton Sport increases Eldegoss's speed for a while, and let me just read this real quick. So gather spore around the users that increase the user's movement speed while this move is in effect. The spores burst after a short time, dealing damage to the opposing Pokemon in the area, throwing them, and decreasing their movement speed for a short time. So I feel like this could be really strong because, so you're making your movement speed increase, you can jump into the fight, attach your spores to everyone else, and then get kind of like a big AoE stun on the entire opposing team. It could be really, really strong, I feel like, and especially with Cotton Guard getting a debuff, maybe we'll see more offensive Cotton Spore Eldegosses instead. So really interesting. One of the big things I'm hoping is a side effect of this is that maybe Eldegoss sees a little bit less play, and maybe Wigglytuff sees a little bit more play, although the support pool is kind of just not very big right now, but maybe this will make it so the supports aren't just Eldegoss every single game, and we do see a little bit more Wigglytuff play with these changes. Alright, next up we got the other big guy in the room, we got Cinderace. Alright, so as I said before, Wigglytuff was the only one to have a stat increase. However, Cinderace is the only one to have a stat decrease. And you'll never guess what stat it is. The following stats have been decreased. Attack. Yep, that's right. No more Cinderaces taking out a fourth of your HP or more with each auto attack. So Cinderace is getting a little bit of a debuff to attack. So we'll see once again how much that actually is when the patch comes out on the 4th. But I think this is a good balance. I like the role of Cinderace, and I think he does a good job, but the fact that he also has such good range and has a higher attack, it seems, than Pokemon like Garchomp, yeah, he definitely needed this debuff, I think. So that's a good balance. We're seeing a decreased attack. We're also going to see Blaze Kick, damage dealt to a Pokemon decreased, so Blaze Kick is a move that I always thought was really interesting on Cinderace, and when people take Pyro Ball over it, it always kind of confuses me. So Pyro Ball is a safe play, and it has more range, obviously, but Blaze Kick, so listen to this, so Blaze Kick, this user performs a fiery flying kick. This move is always a critical hit. There's more to it, but that's the big part. This move is always a critical hit. So with Cinderace, because he's primarily a physical attacker, you're investing all of your items into boosting that physical attack, and you don't want to really invest anything in a special attack. And since your other move that you're using is typically Feint or Flame Charge, which you're just using to engage or de-engage off of opponents, your other special attack, you don't really want Pyro Ball, because Pyro Ball isn't going to scale any damage really. And Blaze Kick honestly isn't going to either. However, the fact that it's a guaranteed critical hit makes it the obvious better choice with Pyro Ball, because it's going to be doing more damage just based off the fact that it's always going to be critting. So they are giving it a little bit of a decrease. So Pokemon Company, it looks like they noticed it as well. They're going to be decreasing the damage a little bit, maybe making it so people just sway back to the more safe bet of Pyro Ball. It will be interesting to see in the future if they maybe get rid of this always crit mechanic, because it also scales with Scope Lens, and Scope Lens increasing your crit damage and chance, which obviously if you have a 100% chance, that doesn't matter, but if you're increasing your crit damage, then Blaze Kick is just always going to be the better choice, I believe. We're also seeing Feint get a move downgrade, which, like I said, is usually the other move that Cinderaces go with, but honestly, it's not too uncommon to see Cinderaces go with Flame Charge over Feint, so the fact that Feint is getting a little bit of a downgrade will maybe just make people go with Flame Charge instead of it. However, these vague move downgrades, well, I guess we'll see what it is, but I typically go with Flame Charge, honestly. You do get more of a engage/de-engage from it, so yeah, I typically prefer Flame Charge. However, Feint giving you that little bit of move speed and also attack speed, I understand the reason a lot of people choose Feint instead, but maybe that will have some side effects that kind of bring those two closer together a little bit. On top of that, going back to the Blaze Kick Pyro Ball debate, we are seeing Pyro Ball get a little bit of a damage increase, so there is that as well. So I think people will probably go Pyro Ball instead of Blaze Kick in the future. However, once again, little up in the air. I think the crit with Blaze Kick is just what sets it apart. It's not so much the damage, it's the crit, because you're just scaling attack damage and crit damage with Cinderace anyway, so anyways, there's that. Next up, we got Zeraora. So Zeraora Spark bug fixes, once again, don't know what the bug was, but it's gone now. The thing that I wanted them to fix the most, or maybe not fix, but debuff the most, was honestly Zeraora's discharge. And surprisingly, we're not going to see that show up here. His discharge didn't get any changes at all. Instead, they decided to maybe incentivize people to pick his other move instead, which is Wild Charge, which people rarely ever pick just because discharge is so insane. So Wild Charge, we're going to see damage increase and cooldown reduction. So once again, this is going to be one of those things where it'll be interesting to see how much that changes, but I feel like Zeraora needed a little bit of a debuff, not so much of a move change incentivize. I feel like it should have been discharge damage decreased in order to incentivize Wild Charge instead of Wild Charge brought up to discharge. But if people maybe stop using discharge, then I'll settle with it, I suppose. We are going to see, however, a little bit of a damage decrease with his ultimate, so there's that. That's we'll take it, I suppose. Damage dealt to opposing Pokemon decreased on the Plasma Gale, and that's Zeraora. Next up, we got Cramorant. So Cramorant, a little bit of a 50-50 decrease increase type of deal, which I'm okay with. Like, Cramorant I feel like is in a really good spot. So we are going to see his Whirlpool damage decrease. So Whirlpool isn't even actually one of his level up attacks, it's his early game attack that you can start with. So this damage decrease on Whirlpool is just going to make him a little less oppressive early game, which is probably a good change. Cramorant can be really strong at the very early moments of the game, so Whirlpool getting a little bit of a damage decrease will change that a little bit. We are going to see a damage increase on his Dive as a trade-off, which typically people take Surf, so Dive getting a little increase, I think it's just once again to incentivize people to choose a different attack, and that's Cramorant. Some small changes, no old changes, so it'll remain mostly the same, just a little less oppressive early game. Next up, we got Machamp, who we're also going to see this basic attack bug fix. We're also going to see Cross Chop's damage decreased and Close Combat's damage increased. And that makes me assume that people pick Cross Chop and don't pick Close Combat. So once again, one of those kind of little give and take updates. Another one of the biggest things that I'm upset with this update is not seeing a fix to Machamp's submission. I don't know about you, but I always feel like I get grabbed by Machamp's submission when I'm in the middle of something he absolutely should not be able to grab me out of. Like, I'll flash back to my base, and he somehow grabs me out of the flash, and it locks on to anyone. Let me know if I'm the only one that's feeling this pain from Machamp's submission. I feel like this is one of the things that I was most looking forward to on this list, and it's not even on here, so I'm a little bit bummed about that. But next up, we got 3 more Pokemon, and I'm putting them all together because they all just have bug fixes. So we got Lucario, Graninja, and Alola Ninetales. Lucario's getting Power Up Punch bug fixes and Bone Rush bug fixes. Greninja's just getting another basic attack bug fix. And Alola Ninetales is getting a Snow Warning bug fix. And that about wraps up our video today. Yeah, once again, let me know down below how you guys feel about this update, how you feel about my comments, how you feel about my awful gameplay, what you think these strange bug fixes and whatnot are. You can also catch my Twitch in the description, where you can see more of this awful gameplay but live. And with that, we'll see you next time.